We are live on the stream side of it, at least anyhow. So welcome to the stream, guys. And you all know the drill. We're no longer live out of the Boss Hog Radio Network, which means fewer commercials for you guys. It's going to be the Jeff and Chip show today. We got some pretty good topics too. I know you've got a lot going on over there, over Jeff in Ohio. But how's everything? How's everything going for the most part?
I can't complain. Just been very busy.
All right. Well, I like the shirt.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had
looks like the same person dressed us.
I had one of the Secret Service guys on the show last week, and he was saying, "Man, I ordered my mug. My mug hasn't come in yet." And I'm like, "Well, the new mug. You're getting the new mug, and they're in production." I told him, I said, and so I was some of the changes. They're taller. The logos on both sides of the mug instead of just being on one side and stuff. So he's excited about that. So I said, "Yep, you should get it shortly." So
how are those two?
Oh, they're tearing it up, man. They're tearing. I'm just glad that we have them on the show at the same time because they normally can't do that on regular network TV and stuff. So it's and they enjoy it. They feed off of each other, and
right.
Frankly, that's what I got. You're up next, Rich. Take it from here. Just like they just like it's just like they joke. It's the shake and bake team. So yeah.
Right.
All right, so we will be doing for the people that are watching the stream. We will be doing a live show all this week is the plan, and then next week, I am taking off Monday through Monday actually. So it'll be 2 Mondays we'll be down, but producer Will is going to put some good stuff up, and I'm going to be going to St. Augustine first, and then I'll be leaving St. Augustine and driving up to Dahlonega, Georgia, and we're going to be those are my 2 favorite distilleries. It's St. Augustine and Dahlonega. They've got Big Creek over there. So anyhow, that'll be fun. But I got a lot of family in Georgia, and it's St. Augustine. It's like the oldest city in America, but it's pretty whacked out liberal over there. You go there and you think, man, this would be a really cool place to live. It's kind of a cool place, but man, I tell you, they got the Flagler College right there and stuff. But it's you have signs. I always tell the story whenever you're going to a shop and they got a sign saying they open and close, don't pay attention to those signs because they open when they want to and they close when they want to. So you very likely will go there, if they open at 10 and may not open until 12 noon, and they'll close an hour or 2 or 3 or whatever before they're supposed to close if they even show up for work. It's just the craziest thing, and that's just an example. And then I was reading some of the police department stuff going on. They had some protesters and they had someone just asking them questions, and I watched her getting cited by an officer, and it was some of the crazy stuff I've seen. It's anyhow, I'll never live there. I don't care how good the distillery is, so I'll go crazy. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to check your mic settings real quick, which I hadn't done yet, and perfect on there. I see that we're live on StreamYard. We pop over here to the Rumble real quick. We got about 2.5 minutes before we go live on the radio portion of the show, and it looks like we're already live over here on Rumble as well. We got MVS and some guys over there. Northwest Colorado apparently it's 33 degrees, so it's a lot colder there than it is here where I'm at. Which, out of curiosity, what's the temperature where you're at in Ohio?
Well, when I got up this morning, it was -4, but it's it's like 22 degrees now. Actually, it's supposed to warm up tomorrow. It's supposed to go all the way up to 42 degrees.
Wow, that's the high for the day? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, we're live on LinkedIn, so that's because we're batting 1,000. We're live on all the outlets, so
good deal. Well, it's a well-deserved vacation for you, Chip.
Yeah, I need one. I'm looking forward to it, and not planning on taking the computer with me, but that's always subject to change. So you never know. 8 days is a long time to be without. I got my phone, but it's a long time to be without a computer.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing how reliant we've become on. If I'm even just going to the grocery store and I leave my phone on the dining room table, I turn around and get it.
Go back home. Oh yeah. It's like a gun. It's like yeah. When I check, I check for 3 things when I roll out of the house, and it is and it's in this order. It is gun first, and then it's phone, and then badge. It in that order for a reason. Yeah. And I do the taps in the normal locations. Sometimes if I'm wearing pants or shorts, it might change on where I'm carrying what. And even the knife, which I like to carry a knife, that's not even on my pat down. My check. I get it 1, 2, 3. I gotta feel those 3 locations before I walk out the door. And constantly wherever I'm at, I'm always like tapping, making sure that my stuff is there. That I got my junk. So. All right, we're less than 30 seconds out from going satellite radio here, guys, and hope everybody appreciates Compliant Technologies for doing this. We got that glove challenge going on too. We're going to be making that announcement of the winner. I think it'll be March the 2nd when we find out. So stay tuned for that. We get to find out who the winners are, and that's winners plural. Guys, we're going satellite. I'm going to start the music. Here we go. All right, guys, and welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host, and we're a group of law enforcement professionals to talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. And let me introduce Jeff. Well, you guys know Jeff. Jeff is a former LAPD commander, retired as a lieutenant, and he now is in Ohio, but don't let that fool you. He's been busy. He's the author of the book On Thin Ice, and you get more information at onthinicebook.com. And everything going good with the book, Jeff? I know you're still doing tours and doing talking engagements and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's surprisingly doing very, very well.
Right.
It most recently was number 4 on Amazon bestsellers for law enforcement books.
All right, sweet. Oh, good.
Very encouraging.
Congratulations. And guys, a shout out to our sponsors. We have Galls, our title sponsor at galls.com. We have complianttechnologies.com, our satellite sponsor. Thanks to them, we're on satellite radio. We also have gunlearn.com, mymedicare.live, and safeguardrecruiting.com, our streaming sponsor. And thanks to them, we are streaming to over 1 million followers right now on social media during the live show. And if you have an agency and you need recruits, you need people to sign up, safeguardrecruiting.com. They're the guys that are going to get you the good quality candidate you're looking for. And twobells.com. They built a new online store at leoroundtable.com. If you want some cool gear without paying the extra prices, go to leoroundtable.com, our website. And from there, you see online store. And that's the one that Two Bells built for us. And you get cool gear like the shirt I'm wearing or the shirt Jeff's wearing or the coffee mug. Now I'm holding up the old version of the mug. The new ones are bigger and better. They're taller. And they've got logos, this blacked out logo on both sides. So no matter whether you're right-handed or left-handed, you can flash that logo, that classy logo. Are we doing a Two Bells giveaway today, Jeff?
You bet. Absolutely.
I hate to put you on the hook because if you said no, it's like, I wouldn't want you to say no, So, but anyhow, we're doing a Two Bells giveaway today. So here's the way it works, guys. If you guys are interested in winning the Two Bells giveaway, all you have to do is type in 2 things: the number 2 and the letter B for Bell. That stands for Two Bells, and give us your email address, and we will draw a winner by the end of the show, and that'll be $20 off for your next purchase at our online store at leoroundtable.com. They'll cover the first $20 for you. So again, type in the number 2, the letter B for Bell, and give us your email address so I have a way to get that gift card code to you guys. A shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press at tampafp.com. Thanks for carrying the content, Brian. Also, Ray Dietrich with forwardlawman.com, and our very own Travis Yates with lawofficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make the show happen. And what in the world are we talking about today? We've got one main topic: home in effect. Local law enforcement arrested 42 anti-ICE protesters at the St. Paul, not the church, but the federal building. That's interesting. We've got California lawmakers. This has been going on, but now there's a new strategy. But thanks to Jeff's buddy, the chief over for LAPD, and also the sheriff over in Los Angeles County. California lawmakers, law enforcement mass ban can be enforced through the civil court. There's a reason why they're having to go through the civil court. Body cam shows Knoxville police fatally shooting a suspect while searching for a missing 15-year-old girl, and they find the girl. And then we have another body cam video. It shows a man holding a toddler at gunpoint, and Las Vegas officers open fire on him. And unfortunately, both him and the toddler end up getting killed. We have authorities uncover an illicit biolab Where else but Las Vegas in a home owned by Chinese nationals? And then we've got a suspect dead after he shot at a Baltimore police officer during a struggle. And then we got Christopher Taylor is reinstated as a peace officer, gets his license back. An officer files a lawsuit against the Tallahassee Police Department after being bitten by a canine. And he didn't work for that. He worked for the Florida State University Police. That's an interesting story. We got to make sure we cover that one. We may have to take these out of order, Jeff. So if you're ready, Jeff, let's start off with the first, the main one. Most of our main stories are not at rumble.com. This one is, and it's the Liberty Dailies, the channel, and they call it the Homan effect, which I thought was interesting. But there's a lot of there's some deeper paths to the story that we're gonna go down. But with the Homan effect, it says local law enforcement arrested 42 anti-ICE protesters at a St. Paul federal building. Now, Minneapolis, St. Paul, they're right next to each other there. And they talk about after several warnings to leave, police move in on anti-ICE protesters outside the Whipple Federal Building in Minnesota, leading to a number of arrests. So the funny thing is it says local law enforcement. It doesn't say that the feds made these arrests. Local law enforcement made the arrest. Now, St. Paul and Minneapolis, they've each got their own agencies, so it's not the Minneapolis Police Department working in St. Paul. So I like what I'm reading about St. Paul, that they got the local cops, taking care of business. And of course, we know what happened in the previously in the church with Don Lemon. And it's kind of interesting watching the news because when we had the two shootings with the two killings, and Trump called in Tom Homan, and Homan came in and he met with Tim Walz and he met with Mayor Jacob Frey, and I'm sure I think the chief's name is McNeil, or I'm sure he was in the meeting too. But when they left, Walz and the mayor were saying, we're not cooperating with ICE. But I guess secretly they'd arranged a deal with Tom Homan saying, yeah, we'll let you into the jails. We'll let you grab the people out of there and avoid all this mess and stuff. And I guess some of the anti-ICE people found out about it. They started staking out Tim Walz's home and playing music at night and loud, and I guess no one enforced the law because he couldn't sleep. So I think it's interesting that they finally found out who was telling the truth and who was lying. And because of that, we were able to withdraw about I think 600 or 700 federal agents. We still left 2,000 in place in Minneapolis, but we were able to withdraw the agents that were having to provide protection for the other agents that were, grabbing the illegals and stuff. So it's interesting how things, work their way out. And then it's also interesting how St. Paul local police are arresting people that are protesting outside of a federal building, not a state building, not a local, but federal building. That's just icing on the cake. Any commentary, Jeff?
Yeah, well, it's what I think is what should have occurred a long time ago. You have to have cooperation with the local, state, and federal law enforcement entities. And the one thing that I did notice when I watched the video of this was that it was a nice response by the local law enforcement agency. They're very disciplined. They have a skirmish line. They're declaring an unlawful assembly. And basically, you're authorized in doing that anytime you have two or more people that congregate to commit a crime, or two or more people congregate to commit a legal act, but in a boisterous, tumultuous, or violent manner. And they're doing everything by the book, and they're doing it by the numbers. And those people that stay or in violation of failing to disperse when given the lawful order to do so, they are methodically and systematically taking them into custody, where they go, put hands on. We call it in LAPD, it'd be like a little arrest circle. You see the skirmish line, then walk beyond them to protect them from the remaining people that are still there. And it's just being done in the most effective and measured way. And unfortunately, this is not how it started. It should have began this way.
Well, of course, we're talking about, St. Paul. I wonder if the protesters got mixed up and confused and they thought that they were still in Minneapolis instead of being in St. Paul, neighboring St. Paul, where the cops are apparently acting a little differently. I still haven't seen this going on in Minneapolis, but
right now, I don't know if Minneapolis and St. Paul are in the same county. I believe they would be, but I could be wrong there. I'm not sure. But I did notice that these local law enforcement officers had a sheriff's markings on their uniforms. So perhaps the sheriff may override because they're the top law enforcement entity in any county, and
Could
would
be.
make the decision to provide these same type of law enforcement practices and measured responses in these during these demonstrations, while not only in St. Paul but as well in Minneapolis. We'll see if that comes to be.
Yeah, interesting you say that. You bring up a good point because after the meeting with the mayor and the governor, Holman very carefully said that he had established relationships with sheriffs, with the counties, and getting access to the jails, which of course is a county thing, right? Normally, in some rare instances maybe, but normally not a city thing. So yeah, you may be onto something. You know, I'll bet he's met with the sheriff. He's already got a agreement for him to be able to go into the jails and grab these guys, and the sheriff probably is liking his newfound relationship with the feds, and he's going out there and doing that. That's very possible.
Yeah, it's not unheard of. In Los Angeles, we saw it when they had an increased problem in Venice Beach area, which falls within the LAPD jurisdiction of homelessness. And at the time, it was Villanueva was the LA County Sheriff,
I remember.
and he said enough, and he went in with sheriff's resources to clean things up. So it's not the first time we've seen something like this, where you may have a different political posture of a law enforcement agency, and the one that would supersede the other actually makes a decision to take some action.
I love it. All right. Well, we got about a minute and a half, and let's see our next story coming up. We've got an update story. This is from globalordinancenews.com. California lawmakers, the law enforcement mask ban. We're not going to have time to cover. We're not going to have time to cover everything before the commercial break, but most certainly afterwards. California lawmakers, the law enforcement mask ban can be enforced through civil courts. I am so proud of the LAPD police chief and Los Angeles County sheriff. Made me happy. So we're in Sacramento on this one. It says, while police chiefs say that they will not enforce the state's new ban on masks for law enforcement officers, including federal immigration agents, which is specifically, aimed at them anyhow, California lawmakers say that there is another way to penalize officers who conceal their identities. And of course, they're going there because they can't get law enforcement to enforce it. So they're going another route. Senate Bill 627, known as the No Secret Police Act, can be enforced through the court system, is where they're going, creating a civil penalty for officers who violate the law. And that's according to the bill's author. So it kind of goes on to talk about just sue the violators is what they're talking about doing, but they want to do it in civil court. The penalty, from what I remember reading, and we'll get to it in a minute, I thought it was like around $10,000. So stay tuned for this, guys. This is going to be an interesting story. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about Galls at Galls.com. And, as police officers, one thing that we really do well is we like to buy gear. And we can buy from a lot of different places. When you throw the online option, it's like limitless, right? But I want to remind everybody, but what is really important here is supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know of a company that does it better than Galls at Galls.com. Even their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which of course they do in spectacular fashion. And not only that, they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at Galls.com, and they're going to do you one better. For the loyal listeners of the show, they've got a radio code that'll get you 15% off your next purchase at Galls.com. It's Radio 15. So next time you go to Galls.com, type in Radio 15 in order to get 15% off your next order. That works on most purchases, and they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones with a new Galls gift card, and they will be your new best friends. You can do all this by going to Galls.com. Again, that is Galls.com. All right, we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And we have kind of redone how we're doing some of our commercials here. So we're only on the commercial breaks. I think we're just doing one commercial now per break, which is nice. So let's talk. I can rest my voice a little bit now.
Well, that just means the listeners have to listen to me more.
That's right. It's more time for content. More time for content. So
exactly.
So I am drinking water. Everybody notices that I'm drinking water today, I'm sure. So I got to do a blood draw later today, and I've learned with my body, drink water, not soda or energy drinks or anything before that, because it makes the experience a lot more pleasant. if you can call that pleasant. So anyhow, that's I've been watering and hydrating up. So
right. Hey, in regards to like the last topic we were talking about, another example of a law enforcement agency having the opportunity to step in and take some action, it was during the LA riots with the Rodney King riots.
oh yeah,
Sherman Block was the LA County Sheriff at the time, and LAPD, when this flashpoint at Florence and Normandy was going off, were telling all their personnel and resources to vacate the area. And Sherman Block was losing his mind, and he seriously considered sending in the sheriff's department personnel to quell things. And obviously, he did made the decision not to. But history could have been completely rewritten had he, because things could have ended up very differently.
interesting. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, about 18 seconds before we come back to the radio portion, guys. And hey, let me just mention again that if you guys are interested in getting $20 off a purchase at our online store, type in the number 2 and the letter B for Bell and give us your email address in order to enter that contest for the 2 Bell giveaway. Here we go. Back to radio. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by Jeff Weninger, former LAPD commander, retired as a lieutenant from there. And, we left off talking about a pretty wild story, and we're going to jump back into this. This story, it is titled California Lawmakers and Law Enforcement Mask Ban. It can be enforced through civil court, which, of course, is only because they're not going to enforce it the other way that they wanted. It's Senate Bill 627. It's also known as the No Secret Police Act. And here's just in continuing with the article, it says people can file these lawsuits against ICE officers, because I remember I said that it is really targeted towards the feds. And so they're just not even bringing other cops into the vocabulary. They're specifically, mentioning only ICE, and they can file suits against these ICE officers, even if the LA police chief decides that he doesn't want to bother to enforce the law. And that's according to Senator Scott. His name could be Weiner or Wiener. I just like to call him Wiener. So hopefully you don't mind that, Jeff. But Scott Wiener, a Democrat from San Francisco who co-authored the bill. Now, the video and the photographic evidence of the enforcement actions that Californians have been collecting for months will allow them to do just that. So they're encouraging almost like, I almost consider like the doxing. They want people to videotape and photograph the cops so that they can, fine them $10,000 for wearing a mask in the feds. Los Angeles County, Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, they both have indicated last week that the agencies that they will not enforce the ban on law enforcement wearing masks. And McDonnell, the chief of LAPD, where Jeff was at, he said that there were risks that could arise with 2 armed law enforcement agencies becoming involved in a confrontation. And he's so right. He gets it. And here's a quote saying, "It's disappointing that LAPD does not want to enforce California law to protect our communities in the face of this assault." And this is what Senator Wiener is saying, referring to the masked federal immigration officers descending on local communities. Yeah. And protecting the way of life from, for law-abiding citizens. Luckily, the No Secret Police Act was crafted to hold ICE accountable without the need for local law enforcement to get involved. I doubt that they anticipated law enforcement not doing it. But individuals, groups, city attorneys, and district attorneys, they can all file lawsuits against any agency, officer, or agents who mask up after January the 1st, according to the law. The civil penalty, it starts at $10,000 starts. The law also requires any law enforcement agencies operating within California to have publicly posted mask policies by July the 1st. It kind of goes on to say the constitutionality of the law, signed by Gavin Newsom back in September. It's being challenged in court with the U.S. DOJ arguing that immigration agents should be able to mask for their safety, including avoiding doxing, and that the law violates the supremacy clause of the Constitution, which says that states cannot control operations of the federal government. So that's where we're at. Lieutenant Jeff Weninger.
Well, just like the previous story, there's so much that can be accomplished if you just work together. And the reality is this bill, it just kind of widens the divide. I think in this case, both the feds as well as local law enforcement have some validity to their positions, but I'm sure this is something that they can work out. It doesn't require law enforcement to be taking law enforcement action against another law enforcement agency. And I certainly don't think it's productive to encourage people to be going the civil route as well. So, just like we've seen with the stuff in regards to allowing the feds access to the jails in Minnesota, downsizing the number of federal agents that are in the state of Minnesota by a significant number, 600 to 700 have been removed, as well as holding these demonstrators that get out of line accountable by making the arrests, but doing it in a very measured and productive way. We can work through this mass thing, and just everybody needs to sit down at the table and come up with how they're going to proceed forward, and that's really the answer. So it doesn't do anybody justice to sit there and claim a position of righteousness, in my mind, where it's your way or the highway.
Well, I got a question though. The people that have been talking about wearing the mask and stuff, they're saying that they're doing it so that people know you're law enforcement. They want to have your not just your face to show. They also want to see your names and stuff. And of course, we know why. We know they're doxing agents and they're trying to get the information. But they're saying that they're doing it to protect the citizens, so that they're not in fear of their homes being raided and people grabbing stuff. You really see a legitimate point on both sides of this? Because I only see it on one side. I see the feds being asked to unmask so that their identities can't be protected and that these guys can be in a role to hurt. I see no legitimacy for the other side. I simply can't see it.
Well, I think part of it has to do with identifying people as law enforcement, not necessarily identifying them in regards to who they actually are, as far as their name and that sort of thing, so people could find out where they live and find out who their family members are.
But how does not wearing a mask identify you as a law enforcement officer? Well,
I think this is where the mask, I think it extends into the lack of a uniform. There's no uniformity. If we look at the last shooting, every one of those 6 officers or agents that were there, they're all dressed very differently. So it doesn't necessarily have to be get rid of the masks or whatever. It may be some uniformity where we don't have 2 people from the same agency looking completely different. I don't know what the answers are where people would feel comfortable moving forward, where we're not taking these actions and expecting law enforcement agencies to take law enforcement actions against other law enforcement agencies, or encouraging people to take civil action. I don't think that that's the answer, but
well, it sounds like you agree. Sounds like you agree that the mask is not a reasonable, if it doesn't meet their explanation for why they're doing it. Them saying,
I think the masks in certain circumstances are reasonable. Do I think they're reasonable all the time? Probably not. And that's part of what they get to talk about. They don't necessarily have to be doing them on every action or operation that they're doing. That's for them to negotiate and to discuss. I don't have any skin in the game. I come from an era and a period where we would never have done that, but things are different now. So
I say
it's a different conversation.
I hope they don't. I hope there's no negotiating with the feds. They're in a great spot right now, and they've got the backing of the American people. And negotiating would not be on the table if it was me. But commercial break, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, Compliant Technologies at complianttechnologies.com. They're committed to providing non-lethal solutions to help officers gain the upper hand safely and rapidly in a humane, low-optics manner, utilizing what they're called their CD3, which stands for Conductive Distraction and De-escalation Technology. Now, their flagship product, we all know by now, it's called the Glove. It's helped officers, well, I was going to say tens of thousands of times, but now there are over 250,000 deployments with absolutely no injuries or deaths. And they've achieved non-lethal status in an arena that predominantly can only offer less lethal results. So when it comes to retention and transitioning from your side to your sidearm or conducting energy weapon. The glove at CompliantTechnologies.com, they virtually eliminated weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game with Compliant Technologies and the revolutionary CD3. The hundreds of agencies have already turned to nationwide, and friends, take it from me, when it comes to safety, this is one of the most common sense hands-on solutions that's ever come along. So go to CompliantTechnologies.com today. Again, CompliantTechnologies.com. All right, we've got 4 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And don't forget, guys, we are doing that Two Bells giveaway. You get a $20 gift card, and the first $20 is on them when you're making a purchase at the online store. So all you have to do is type in the number 2 and the letter B for Bell in order to enter that contest. And I'm just checking to see if we've how we're looking. We got some people entering the contest. I don't know that we've got enough right now in order to run that. So I'm going to go over and check some of the other platforms as well and see how we're looking over there. But I do see that we've got we are getting some Sharon Mallory has entered the contest. I see Betty Dunn's entering again, and some other people. I also see some people saying nice shirt, but they didn't enter the contest. So that was Jenny Anderson. So don't forget, guys, if you want the gift card code, you got to enter the contest by typing the number 2, the letter B, and we have to have an email address for you so we can give you that gift card code. All right. I think we're off to a good start, Jeff. We got 3 minutes here.
Yep. So I got a question for you. It deals with this Guthrie case, and because I know that you have extensive background in missing persons and critical missing people. You're hearing a lot of people. I know locally, people are upset of all of the attention that this case is getting and all the resources that are being thrown at it. And I was just curious: is it just that people feel that way because it's getting the media attention it's getting, or is it actually a true reality that less noteworthy cases don't get this type of resources, or does it just happen behind the scenes that people just don't know it because it's not getting the notoriety?
Well, I mean, when you bring in the feds on something like that, well, let me start off by saying that the people that are close to the case are not complaining about the attention and and the federal partners, right? Even though in the cases that I worked, one of the main ones, the missing person thing, was of course the Stephen Lorenzo case, where I had these missing gay guys, and we had a serial killer, 2 of them, and that I ended up identifying Stephen Lorenzo on that one, but I didn't have the benefit of having the feds to help me out with that one. But there really wasn't a need, but it could have easily have gone. It was multi-jurisdictional and stuff. It could have gone that route. I guess my answer is I just don't know. I know that the people that are involved in that case are extremely happy. I suspect that members of the sheriff's office are happy too. They're getting some assistance with that. And you and I spoke a little off camera. I think it's sad. You would never hear me complain about the attentions that's being given to this case. I'm kind of impressed, with what I'm seeing, and I'm a little surprised they haven't come up with more stuff yet, because I know how good the FBI is, which makes me, it makes me question maybe information that we don't have, or maybe who was involved, who was the bad actor in this thing, what his skill level is at doing this stuff, because normally, it's very difficult to go this far along into investigation without certain things being aired, red flags and information coming out of, we've got a suspect identified, we're tracking him down, and all that stuff. So.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm jealous that they've got all this help, and I mean, obviously, when you have stuff like, you don't want well, look, we've already got people trying to lay claim to a to a reward or to the money, and they weren't even involved in this alleged kidnapping. So there's a lot of bad actors and people that or copycats, or this gives people ideas on what they can do to make a quick buck and stuff. And you don't want that to happen either. So I'm glad in some aspects they're doing this. Thank you. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by former LAPD Commander Lieutenant Jeff Winninger, also author of the book On Thin Ice at onthinicebook.com. Jeff, I know that we were talking about an update story before we went to our last commercial break. Any more information on that, or?
No, I just hope they work it out. I just want them to work it out. I think everybody can be pleased with whatever they decide to do.
Talking about the mask law that's being pushed by a senator in California and signing the law by Gavin Newsom, and aimed pretty much at the feds masking up and stuff. And now, of course, the LAPD, where Jeff used to work, the LAPD Police Department and the LA Sheriff's Office, among other agencies, said, "Hey, we're not going up against the feds and trying to enforce this thing." And so now they have a civil component to this, where they're saying, "Hey, we'll go against these guys for $10,000 a pop for violating this, and we'll let the citizens take pictures and film these guys." It's almost like they're encouraging that to happen. So, yeah, what could go wrong with that? So anyhow, I'm not too worried about this happening, even the civil side of this stuff. I just don't see that happening. But it does show the intent of these who I consider bad actors. So, moving along, we've got a story with a video component. We got two stories of video components, guys. These are going to be tough, especially the second one. So let's start this off, and I want to get both these ones in. We got 9 minutes. Rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel, called This Is Butter. This first one, body cam shows a Knoxville police a fatal shooting involving a suspect while they're searching for a missing 15-year-old girl. Now, both these end completely differently. But in Knoxville, Tennessee, the Knoxville Police Department, they released this body cam footage from an officer or officers when they shot and killed a guy during the search for the endangered child. Now, the agency said the officers that they were following up on credible information that a missing 15-year-old girl was inside an apartment at a North Park apartment complex. And the suspect is a 46-year-old named Angel Melendez. Now, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation gets involved here, which is impressive. They issued an endangered child alert for the missing girl the day before the shooting. Now, they had warrants also charging Melendez, the suspect, with concealing, harboring, or hiding a runaway child, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and theft of a firearm. They had all been placed on file. So they had reason to believe this guy was armed. Now, the released body cam footage includes video from the Sergeant Chris Hutton, Lieutenant Sean Shreve, and then the officer Terry Crow. The agency said that the Sergeant Hutton and Lieutenant Shreve, that they are the two officers that shot Melendez. How often does a sergeant and a lieutenant, or they end up being the ones to take that kind of action? So on January 28th, 10:25 in the morning, we have the Special Operations Squad. They knock on the apartment door. They yell for about a minute before entering, and they got body cam. Officer said that they get into the apartment through the consent of the owner. Once inside, they go into the bedroom where the suspect Melendez is supposed to be, and he's standing there shirtless, and the 15-year-old girl is sitting on a mattress that ends up being on the floor. Now, the part with the girl, that becomes more evident when we see it through another body cam. But in the very beginning, you're really looking at the suspect. Now, Officer Crow, he enters the room. As the first officers are yelling, Knoxville Police Department, he orders Melendez to put his hands up. And Officer Crow and Melendez, they end up struggling. And then the gun becomes apparent, and they yell, "He's got a gun." And then Melendez, the bad guy, points the gun in the direction of the officers. And at that point, Sergeant Hutton and Lieutenant Shreve, they fire multiple times, and they kill Melendez. The 15-year-old girl, she's still sitting there on the bed, and she's screaming. And remember, that it's a mattresses on the floor. But after Melendez is shot, the girl, she continues to scream, and then she's got a knife in her hand, and the Officer Crow is right there, and he tells her, someone yells to get her out, and Officer Crow, on his body cam footage, you can see this 15-year-old girl, she takes that knife and hits him in the head. Now, he ends up not being hurt, but they grab her, take her to the University of Tennessee Medical Center, and then they charge her with assault for hitting the cop with the knife. So disaster averted on that one, and bad guy dead. Commentary, Jeff?
I think what's important is that we recognize that there is a level of exigency involved here. Now, I don't know exactly what information the officers had prior to making the entry, but when you have an adult male like this who has a juvenile, and there's the risk of her being harmed, and you could have a crime in progress. It takes away from the luxury of having the time to perhaps use other tactics to try to recover the 15-year-old girl. So they enter, and sure enough, they're back in the bedroom. I mean, well, that's a surprise, right? And then I don't know why, because we don't have the investigation. We don't know the statement of the involved sworn personnel, but why he made the decision to go in and make physical contact with the suspect. I can only assume it had something to do with the fact that he felt that there was an opportunity to separate him from the victim. But then, lo and behold, there's a gun. And, I got to commend how well they communicated, yelling that there was a gun and then responding to that lethal threat. It is interesting what happened with the 15-year-old girl in regards to her response to law enforcement. We don't know the entire background, I mean, the relationship that she had with this guy. But perhaps, she was suffering trauma, and she was just kind of traumatized and didn't know what she was doing. I don't really know, but that actually is a shock. But you got to commend their response and how they handled this. They came in methodically, but they didn't stop. They just kind of kept flowing like water, but in a very measured and practical way. And when they saw the threat, they neutralized it. So it's a good caper.
Yeah, the female, it just goes to it's rarely perfect, right? I mean, going up and grabbing the guy, that he might have a gun, but I didn't see the gun until they grabbed him, so I can see how that could happen. And the girl with the knife, the last thing I would have thought if I was the cop there was that she was going to stab me, but it's a 15-year-old kid, and in their mind, whatever kind of the relationship was that she had with this bad guy, she's going to be damaged from this. Hopefully not permanently, but for a while. She's going to need some help. But that whole mindset she's in, you just don't know. And so just a little reminder of that when you're with these victims, or you just don't know where their mind is at. Are they upset because you just killed the person that they love and that think they're going to spend the rest of their life with, or what kind of illusion that they're under? She's 15. What does she really know? So it's I'm so glad the cop did not get seriously injured or hurt. And I'm glad that, it could have gone another route where the lieutenant and the sergeant were having to use lethal force against her to keep her from killing, that guy if she started stabbing him. So I'm so glad that it just didn't go there and that it ended the way it did. And hopefully, and I'm sure they'll get her the help that she needs. But yeah.
Well, the reality is that they used restraint to not have done so, because
that's a good point.
They would have been justified in doing so. So had they used lethal force against her, it would have been justified in that circumstance. And so that demonstrates, once again, the restraint and discipline that they had in that circumstance. So, kudos to them. Good for them.
Well, this next story is not going to have quite the same ending. We're still at rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Butter. We have body cam video showing a man holding a toddler at gunpoint before Las Vegas Metro officers opened fire on him. And it was like open fire. I heard more than one shot being fired. I was waiting. We had a guy with a rifle from the body cam position. I was expecting one shot. There were multiple shots, and then I saw that there were two shooters and stuff. So let's get into this. Las Vegas Metro, they provided details on the shooting involving their officers that left a man and a toddler dead. The Las Vegas Metro Police, they responded to a report at approximately 1:19 in the morning Tuesday at the from Reneka Pate, who accused her child's father, a 28-year-old named Quentin Baker, of assaulting her and her friend at an apartment complex. Now, Pate also reported that Baker, the father, threatened to kill her and her son and attempted to take the child, who was a 3-year-old named Contre Baker, from the apartment. Now, Officer Jonathan Lowe and Officer Damon O'Donnell, they end up getting dispatched to the scene. While they're on their way, they get informed that Baker, the father, had fired a gun at a vehicle twice in the parking lot and left with the child, the toddler, in a car. Now, when they get there, the officers connected with Pate, the complainant. They learned that Baker, the father, was now inside the apartment with the child, and he's armed with a gun. Now, Pate, the female, warns that Baker that he would kill the child if he saw the officers, and that was seen on the body cam. She also stated that he told her, quote, if you don't tell them to call this stuff off, that they will, if they try to come upstairs, I'm blowing the child's brains out. I'm blowing mine out. You won't have neither of us. And Baker also said that he would not go to jail and that police would have to kill him. So they're going in armed with all this information. Now, I'm going to stop there. This is, there's a lot to cover on this and a lot to unpack. But if there's anything that can be learned from this, I think that we all agree, let's just find a silver lining in this. So we'll cover this when we get back from our next commercial break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And, as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns and we deal with ammo every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us into trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and also disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, accurate, and competent certified firearm specialists like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Afianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, if you're a chief or sheriff and you have your own agency, the founder, Dan O'Kelly's got a deal for you. You can actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. It's an amazing opportunity. You can go to gunlearn.com to get more information. Again, that's gunlearn.com. And we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion, guys. Right, moving right along. And I'm just going to go in and check the feeds here and make sure that you guys are entering the contest as well. Don't forget, if you want to be eligible for that 2 Bells giveaway, $20 off our online store, type in the number 2, the letter B for Bell, and give us your email address in order to be considered for that contest, and so that we can email you the gift card code in case you win. All right. And we got some good commentary about the that senator that came up with that mask thing. Spook Dog was writing some interesting stuff on that. I don't know if it's true or not, so I don't want to say it about some other stuff that he's been involved with, but interesting stuff. So we're doing good so far, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. Got some good topics and good videos today.
I'll tell you, Mondays are always the best because you get your choice from everything that happened over the weekend,
Yeah. I mean, these videos are videos of probably the most stressful type of scenarios you'll ever have to deal with in law enforcement.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We got this post here from James Hendricks saying that he was one of the Marines sent to LA. What would that have been for, do you think?
This past spring, they had the National Guard and they sent the Marines in as well, I believe. That's probably what he's referring to.
And the Marines? Okay.
Yeah. That's my guess.
Thanks for what you're doing, James. And Marine, thanks for back in the blue too. We appreciate it. All right, you gotta love it. Well, we got 16 seconds. We're going back already, man. The commercial time's just flying by. All right, guys, I'm starting the music, going back to radio. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBluck, and I'm your host. We're joined by former LAPD Commander Lieutenant Jeff Wenninger, also author of the new book On Thin Ice at onthinicebook.com. We left off talking about a story, not a happy ending, but the title of the story, it's body cam video shows a man holding a toddler at gunpoint before Las Vegas officers open fire. And we've got the mom calling the cops. This guy's threatened her and their young child. And she said that Baker told her that if you don't tell them, meaning the cops, to call this, and I'm just going to say stuff off instead of what else it said. And if they try to come up the stairs, I'm blowing the child's brains out. I'm going to blow mine out. You won't have either one of us left. He said that he would not go to jail and the police would have to kill him. So as officers assess the situation, and they're not pushing it right there, they're trying to avoid something bad happening. So I can appreciate the officers being in that position. And this is early on too. I don't think they've had time to get a hostage negotiator or anyone else there yet. And then all of a sudden, this guy starts coming out of the apartment and he's walking towards them and he's carrying the toddler and he's got a gun. The toddler's in his left arm. He's got the firearm in his right hand. Is pointed at the child's chest, and that's how he's approaching law enforcement. So he's all of a sudden, he's he's pushing, for something to happen. Despite verbal commands from the officers, Baker, this father, refused to comply, continues to approach the officers. It appeared in the body camera that he stated something like, look, 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 I'm trying to find the mom. I'm going to kill myself. And officers Lowe and O'Donnell, they both discharged the firearms. And I know that from one body cam, I know that at least the one that I saw had a long gun. I'm not sure if the other officer that fired had a long gun or not, but they fired. It says that our bad guy Baker, holding the child, said that at the same time he simultaneously fired his weapon 5 times, which I find a little surprising, him being able to fire 5 times. And police said that Officer Lowe fired 3 times. Officer O'Donnell fired twice. That's a total of 5 shots. And both Baker, the father, and the child, contrary, that they were both hit by gunfire. The autopsy revealed that the father sustained 4 gunshot wounds. And remember, cops fired 5 shots. So he got hit with 4, and the child sustained 3. And they also said that the father fired 5 times right at the same time they opened fire on him. Preliminary investigation revealed that the child had at least 2 close contact gunshot wounds from when the father discharged his firearm. The 3rd bullet was undetermined, and that's under investigation through the coroner and forensic and stuff. They said the detectives were able to determine that the child was struck in the head by a close contact gunshot wound when the suspect, his father, discharged the weapon. And it was also discovered that one of the rounds that the father fired, it ricocheted and struck one of the officers in the foot, and the officer had a bruise and a cut. It didn't sound like that was too severe. Jeff Weninger.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an unbelievably stressful scenario for law enforcement to have to deal with. You have an individual who's a moving target, and he's also holding his 3-year-old son, who is going to have to be factored in your decision on when to fire or even if to fire. I guess the one thing that I find a little perplexing, you kind of hit on a little bit, is I'm not sure how it was possible that he got 5 rounds off. When I say he, the suspect. And unfortunately, the video doesn't continue, so I couldn't really see. But in that situation, anybody that would be firing, this is a situation where you're never firing to kill somebody, but you need to fire to stop. And in this situation, the way you stop is a headshot. So this would be a disciplined, very methodical headshot that would have to be taken. So it is a little precarious that 2 people fired. I would hope it would be the individual with the long gun who would have the best ability to make that tactical type shot. But I was also kind of a little bit surprised and maybe even concerned that the law enforcement agency is coming out with such definitive statements relative to the wounds until you actually have a report in hand. They haven't completed an official report, and they may just be citing the things that they've been told. But unless you have something codified that you can go back on to support your statements, you're going out on a limb, because I've seen it happen before. You're told one thing, and then the report comes out and it does not support what you were told. So you're standing there looking like you didn't know what you were talking about. So I was a little surprised that they came out with such definitive statements prior to the official report being released.
Yeah, could you imagine if they were wrong on part of that? I mean, we already know that there's a likelihood that one of the bullets came from that hit the child, at least anyhow, came from friendly fire, from one of the cops. We don't know, but could you imagine if the contact shots they said came from the father, if they didn't? That wouldn't go over too well either, would it?
Right. Yeah. And in LA, we had a very similar case back in 2009. I think it was in July of 2009. It was the Susie Pena case. There was a father who was holding his young daughter. He wasn't outside like in this particular incident. He was inside, and a SWAT had responded, and they made the decision to make entry and got engaged in a gunfight. And it turned out that it was the officer's rounds that struck and killed the daughter, Susie Pena. So,
really?
Yeah. So it's these are tragic circumstances, but you have to give a little bit of deference to law enforcement officers, especially in these cases where they're making decisions in split seconds, and things don't always go as planned, but they always have their hearts are in the right place, and they're trying to save the people that they're there to save. So, although this was tragic, regardless of what the outcome is in the final report, the officers are there with the intentions of trying to save the young child.
Agreed. Well, I think we have time, hopefully, to cover that one that I wanted to cover. I wanted to go and announce the winner real quick for the contest. So Sharon Mowery, congratulations on winning the 2 bells giveaway. Have your email address and everything. So thank you so much, and I will get that to you in email right after the show. So thanks for entering. And I want to cover this next one real quick. We've only got just shy of 3 minutes. We've got rumble.com. This is Butter, our favorite channel there. Officer files a lawsuit against the Tallahassee Police Department after being bitten by a police canine. Now, this officer, he works for the Florida State University Police Department. So here we go. Lawsuit filed in Leon County Circuit Court alleges that the Tallahassee Police Department canine Kai, that's KAI, bit a fellow officer from the Florida State University Police Department during a chase. Now, Matthew Foster, who represents the bitten officer, so I'm assuming he's an attorney, said his client has nerve damage on his dominant hand used to draw his gun. During the discovery process, Foster said that he uncovered 3 total incidents in which a canine bit fellow officers. And I'm telling you, that is not unusual. And he said, think about it. My client's a law enforcement officer. He's chasing dangerous suspects. He gets them in front of him, and he's got to be on guard and protect himself from them, and then he's got to worry about being attacked from behind by an attack. And it's not just a canine; it's an attack canine, Jeff. Just so you got that. So the city of Tallahassee and the Tallahassee Police Department, they have not commented except to say that they deny that the canine or the handler, acted negligently. And it goes on to say that, look, let me just cut to the chase here. Apparently there's a maximum of only $200,000 that the officer can get. If you watch the video, the officer's telling, the college, cop is telling the other cop, hey, I'm okay, and he acts like it's a big nothing. Then he ends up telling dispatch to get him an ambulance and stuff. And it just didn't make a lot of sense to me when your cops and when they released the dog, there were 2 agencies there, so maybe there's a little confusion, but you stop, because that dog will lock in and it'll bite the handler, it'll bite you. I've got scars all up and down but I've never, the thought of suing someone because their canine bit me. I've been in fights with bad guys and my arm went out the sidewalk next to a canine and he bit into it, pulled the fat through the hole out of my arm, and I had pieces of fat come, like under the skin, the layer of fat. It's just no big deal. And anyhow, your thoughts on this, Jeff? 30 seconds.
Well, it's just hard to say. It's possible that it turns out that he had a lot more severe injury than he thought. And also the thing that needs to be evaluated is were policies and procedures followed by the canine handler. But at the end of the day, it is a bad look whenever you're going to sue another law enforcement agency.
Well, they're not giving the officer's name. We both know why. And I bet the canine handler, they're not giving his name out either, but I'm sure he doesn't, he doesn't mind. But yeah, so they're trying to cover the identities. And this officer didn't work for Tallahassee Police. He worked for, a college police department, which tells me that, and I'm not trying to be mean, but he probably wasn't good enough to get on with the bigger agency. He went with a small college agency. And I'm very disappointed to see that he's going that, I just think that he probably just doesn't belong in law enforcement is what I'm thinking. Just from the outside looking in, I think that if the injury would have been more severe, he couldn't use his trigger finger anymore, they would have said that. That's not what they said. And plus he just said that everything was fine right after it happened. So I don't know. I do want to mention the Wounded Blue at thewoundedblue.org. Jeff Winninger, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And let me mention our sponsors too: Galvis.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, Gunler.com, Medicare.live, Safeguard Recruiting, and TwoBells.com. Hey, thanks guys for the support. We're going to be back tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern. Please watch the show. And we're going to keep this thing going for another minute and a half just to keep the satellite company happy. Any words of wisdom, Jeff, to our audience?
No, just be safe out there.
All
How about the
right.
Super Bowl? I hope everybody's happy with the Super Bowl. I didn't care one way or the other, but I thought it was a good story, whoever won. You know,
Oh,
it's
did you? I see. I thought it was. Well, look, I spent the first half of the game. I was in on the computer doing stories and stuff, and so but I did want to watch the halftime, the Turning Point USA halftime show is the one I watched. I didn't see the other one. Don't care to watch it. But the game, from what I saw, I watched the second half. What a boring game! What a just a boring. I mean, just a boring. So that is not going to go down in the annals of history of being one of the best Super Bowl games. Because it was a pretty boring game. But one team dominated. So good for them. So I'm glad that there was a clear winner, and I don't think there is. It's not like there was a close call, and people were thinking that the wrong team, got the trophy. But yeah, not a very exciting game. So I had food with Patty. We watched the last half of the game and stuff after the halftime show and stuff. So it's all good.
right. Yeah, I had it on, but I didn't even. I watched maybe the first half with it just on, and then I kind of turned it off. Wasn't interested.
Most important thing for me, I mean, literally, is I just don't want to see guys seriously injured in these games. It's their livelihood, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to see things like that happen, because when it does, just like our Olympic skier that just took a fall and she had a hairline fracture, and then she wasn't able to perform. I just hate to see that happen with these athletes. That so much in their future, so much is hanging on them just staying healthy. So
right. And I always watch them with the concern that what better event to have a terrorist attack at than the Super Bowl. And granted, you have every resource there to prevent it, but at the end of the day, you're always wondering if you're watching something where it's going to go very badly. You never know.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we need ICE to do their thing, because that we had open border for 4 years, and I think about that too. I'm thinking, man, I hope I don't read in the paper the next day about something that went down, and thank God, I haven't read that, But if ICE wasn't doing their thing, oh my gosh, could you imagine all the people we've been able to get out of the country now that are bad actors, and there's still plenty more left. But yeah. Well, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to let the streamers go. Congratulations on the win, Sharon. I will get that out, and hope everybody has a safe rest of your day. We'll see you guys back tomorrow, hopefully at 12 noon Eastern. So thanks, guys.